Come on, Livingston. We gotta go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We gotta go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across, it's turned in! It's Pittman who's got it! Livingston leads!
Road is long.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead!
Man, can score.
If we march together.
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates! And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
Come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Come on, Livingston. We gotta go.
Hello, you're listening to Talk Livi, the podcast dedicated to West Lothian's finest football team, Livingston Football Club, and proudly sponsored by Starnet Apparel. My name's Angus, and today I'm joined by Euan. Euan, how are you doing, man?
I'm all good. It's another week, another Livingston defeat for the men's team. It's just get this feeling of deja vu every time we come on and do this podcast. But I had slightly better things on at the weekend as well. Had a night away with Shannon up in Blairgowrie on the Friday night and had a good weekend away. Also did a zip wire on the Saturday afternoon, which somebody who's not keen on unstable heights, to be brutally honest, I was absolutely shitting myself. So, but I have lived to tell the tale. So, yeah, and we're currently decorating the house at this moment in time. So our house looks like a bomb has hit it. But other than that, life's all good, Angus. What about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. I was spared from being present at the game on Sunday. Obviously on duty with the women's team, who did put on a good performance and got, I would say, a good result. So I'll be happy to talk about that as well. Yesterday, I handed in my major project for university. I don't know if that's a moment to celebrate because it goes straight into dissertation mode now. So yeah, I'm just trying to put that off. And thankfully, something like this has given me the opportunity to take a wee breather away from that kind of stuff and just, I guess, let off some steam in a different avenue as well. But as always, you can search for Talk Livi on your preferred podcast streaming site, where you can also follow and subscribe to make sure you don't miss another episode. You can also catch up on all our episodes that we've done today on there as well.
We'll kick the episode off by discussing Livi's defeat against Celtic. His 3 second-half goals would see the visitors come away with a comfortable victory.
The Lionesses were on the road as they faced Kilmarnock in a battling draw at Rugby Park in what would be a landmark afternoon for many reasons.
And finally, we'll look ahead to the visit of Aberdeen to Tony Macaroni Arena this weekend.
The Lions would come up against title-chasing Celtic this weekend, looking to put a spanner in the works. However, it would end in a routine victory for the champions as it came away with a 3-0 victory. Euan, I'm pretty sure there's a lot to talk about this game, but just the game itself, what do you make of that?
Yeah, we'll come on to talk about the other bits and bobs that happened over the course of the afternoon later on, but we'll kind of cover the actual game, because believe it or not, there was a game of football that broke out in between everything else that was going on Sunday afternoon. But yeah, it was, as you said there, routine for Celtic in the end, albeit I think first half we gave a pretty reasonable account of ourselves. I think we defensively looked pretty solid. We'd set up with a back four, Nottingham, Devlin, Oberlai and Sean Kelly at left back. And you kind of sit a bit fearful at that point. Celtic like to play with two kind of out-and-out wingers who have bags of pace to kind of burn, and we saw how Maeda caused Nottingham a lot of problems in the cup tie recently. But I actually think Michael Nottingham did okay in the game against Maeda. I think most of Celtic's threat actually came through Kuhn on the other side up against Sean Kelly, got him behind him on quite a few occasions. But yeah, I think for the most part, we dealt with Celtic very well in the first half. Kind of other than a couple of attempts from Rio Hatate, which one just over the bar, one just wide from outside the 18-yard box. And then probably the only real chance of the first half came to Kyogo on the stroke of half-time, which Shamal George, who actually I think had a pretty good game all in all, made a good save from. There was a penalty claim and amongst it from Kyogo, which got brushed aside when VAR looked at it again, and for me, rightly so. I think Kyogo's chucked himself to the ground. I don't think there's a penalty in there, and cue the conspiracy theories coming up that Celtic didn't get a penalty there, whilst Rangers would have in the week of the Old Firm game coming up. But less said about that, the better. But yeah, second half, it's this deja vu thing I'm talking about at the start. We shoot ourselves in the foot again with an individual error. I felt quite sorry for Stephen Bradley because he was hooked just shortly after it, and I think he'd actually done okay in the game as well in front of Sean Kelly. But yeah, he's in control of that situation. It's almost kind of similar to, I don't know how much you saw of the international break, but Northern Ireland's goal in a way.
Yeah.
I think Stephen Bradley's actually done really well initially, but like Nathan Patterson did in that game against Northern Ireland. And he really just needs to go and put the ball down the line, and we can get back into our shape and kind of
It's just
reset a little
modern
bit.
football, mate. It's just modern football nonsense where they're trying to keep the ball instead of being this woke nonsense, keeping the ball in play.
Yeah, exactly. There's always a time and a place, isn't there? I think regardless of how the game's moved on, there's a time and a place, and certainly in our case, against probably one of the best teams in the country, there's a time and a place to try and play out, and it probably wasn't then when we're camped into our own 18-yard box. It is just a case that he needs to go and put it down the line and let us get out and try and reset a little bit. But Kuhn's done well to dispossess him initially, and then it's just a bit of a scramble inside the kind of between the penalty spot and 6-yard box. It's a scramble's just kind of broke out. The ball broke to Rio Hatate. Shamal George has made a really good reaction stop, but in the process of making that stop, the ball's rebounded off of Jamie Brandon and trickled over the line. And given that we'd been okay in the game, I'm not saying comfortable in the game, but I think we dealt with Celtic relatively well up to that point. To concede a goal in that manner is really, really disappointing, and you're always going to be on the back foot. And kind of spoke about this when we played Celtic early in the season at Livy. The timing of goals can be an absolute killer as well. Remember that game we're 1-0 down at half time, and you think, right, we're up against 10 men now, you can set the tone for the second half, and we concede a minute into the second half. That goal came pretty early in the second half as well, and it kind of throws out any game plan that you might have had. And after that, it was difficult for ourselves to really get in the game. I do think Tete Yengi had a pretty reasonable game, in particular the first half. I thought he kept Carter Vickers and Liam Scales well occupied. He gave us a decent out ball as well, but he wasn't getting the same success in the second half, and it was just starting to kind of recycle itself, and the game starts to open up a little bit more at that point when Celtic have got that goal. Kuhn had a good opportunity coming in off the line. Shamal George has made a decent save. Kyogo had a good chance as well. Again, I think Shamal's pulled off a really decent save from there. And then the second goal is just the absolute killer at that point. I think 70 odd minutes on the clock. It's one of those, again, we've said that in recent weeks, players need to take a little bit of responsibility. I think you can stop that at source from when Bernardo's got the ball. I think Holty could be a little bit more cynical, and it's not like Holty not to be cynical at times. He is a kind of master of the dark arts, but Bernardo's kind of managed to brush aside. He's played the 1-2 with Matt O'Reilly, I think it is, and his strike, I hadn't appreciated the taking a little deflection, which, to be honest, is probably the difference between Shamal getting a hand to it and not. In the end, it's a very slight nick off Iobali. And then the third goal kind of, to me, was a bit similar to some of the goals we conceded at Easter Road. It was a bit passive, little bit lack of pressure on the ball, and the ball's worked its way back to Matt O'Reilly, and probably the one bit of fault you could give Shamal George in the afternoon is the third goal. I think he needs to do a lot better, get a much stronger hand behind that, because it's a pretty tame effort by Matt O'Reilly. And then I think the young lad Daniel Kelly's had a header late on, which has gone just wide. But there was positives in how we set our stall out in the first half and frustrated Celtic. But again, there was a lack of kind of cutting edge up the top end of the park. I know the manager spoke in depth afterwards about the injuries that we've kind of faced this week and the previous week before that. The likes of Nubly, Mackay, both struggling. Christian Montano struggled as well. Andrew Shinnie being unavailable, so we were maybe slightly short on options. But yeah, I think the first half there was plenty of positives, but as I say, that kind of individual mistake at the start of the second half's really killed it for us.
And honestly, Ewan, I really not got much to add to it. Wasn't at the game. I think you could tell by my pre-match prediction following that Hibs game, I didn't have much kind of confidence for it and didn't really care about this game in all honesty. To put it as bluntly as possible, I'd kind of accepted the kind of outcome and stuff like that way before it started. So the fact that I was missing it as well, like I just didn't really. Obviously, I was kind of paying attention and keeping up to date with it and stuff like that. But it's basically kind of exactly what I kind of expected to happen. And, that's against the champions and stuff like that. So I guess you can kind of have a wee bit of leeway there. So yeah, not really got kind of too much to add on to your points. I'm going to trust your judgment. So that's a scary prospect that we're having to rely on your knowledge of a football match for for this episode.
What kind of dig is that? I like to think I'm pretty balanced and reasonable.
We've been doing this for 5 years together, and and now I'm only questioning your credentials.
Absolute prick of a cheap shot, that.
But of course, one thing I do know is that there's a lot of controversy out with of the game as well. As you expect when Celtic come to play Livingston, they're going to have basically the free stands, packing them as full as they can, essentially, and stuff like that. Never kind of really had too much of an issue with that, Ewan, but seeing the photos and seeing the images of a full stadium display, essentially, no kind of real issue with the Tifo and stuff like that, I guess, because that's kind of harmless and stuff. But multiple flags and banners and stuff like that, people coming onto the pitch to be able to set things up. How do you feel about that, and how do you feel about the club, in quotations, allowing that? I know the club has literally just released a statement discussing about how they had came to agreements and stuff like that, which were not kept. These promises weren't kept between the Celtic SLO, the police, kind of the security. Yeah, what are your kind of general feelings of this? I guess you maybe have a different kind of perspective actually being there, as opposed to me just kind of seeing the odd photo coming up on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put it really bluntly to you. I was fucking raging with the football club on Sunday, and I appreciate they have just come out with a statement, so I can kind of retract that to an extent, because it's well documented that permission was not granted for what was on display at the weekend. I believe what was agreed was some sort of display in the south stand of the ground. Rangers had done something similar earlier in the season when it was the Remembrance Sunday game that we played. And clearly Celtic and their supporters have just decided to defy the lack of permission that was granted and decided to do what the fuck they want, essentially, in our stadium. I found it really embarrassing. I can understand the financial aspect that we give 3 sides to the Old Firm. There's no getting away from that. It would be financial suicide if you decided to close parts of your ground when they come to play us, because the fact is we don't have the fans to go and make up that shortfall financially. So that I have no issues with, absolutely no issues. But them coming to our ground and making it a public political display, for me, is embarrassing. And I'll kind of go through what the statement from the club, but for anyone who hasn't seen the banner, it's in reference to the Easter Uprising of 1916. Born into slavery, they were freedom's sons. According to Livi's statement, which was released literally just before we started recording, the Green Brigade had requested permission to have a display around 3 sides of the grounds. We denied that. We allowed them the opportunity to have it in the South Stand. Any banner was meant to read, "You play for us and we'll sing for you." Very different banner to what was displayed at the game. And is it any wonder why opposition fans of the Old Firm despise them the way that we do? They wonder why folk dislike them to such a regard. And apparently, as I say, that was denied twice. There was then, as I say, that agreement for it to be in the South Stand. Apparently, as a safety measure, they ended up allowing the banner into the ground. But as a safety measure, they had God knows how many fans on the park to hold this banner up. How's that protecting and safety for the players? It's absolutely embarrassing. And then the fact that there was a second banner unfurled in the second half, which apparently they were denied as well, which they still decided to bring into the ground. And again, their fans are on the park to display this. Again, the safety of the players is in question at this point. It's an absolute embarrassment of a situation that developed on Sunday with regards to that. And I appreciate the club will be, and going by their statement, will be launching an investigation with the kind of stewarding company that are in place at the stadium. But as I say, I don't have any issue with them getting three sides of the ground, but the absolute contempt that their fans have shown to our football club, I think, is embarrassing, and we need to make a pretty strong stance. I know, going by our league position, it's not going to be a problem next year that we're going to be playing either half of the Old Firm, but yeah, I have to say I was absolutely furious at the weekend that our ground has been used as an opportunity for a political display, and it's nothing to do with football. That's the thing that's so ridiculous about it. It's absolutely nothing to do with football. And trust me, I'd have the exact same opinion if it was the opposite way around, if Rangers came and did something like that at our ground. But yeah, it's, as I say, it's really disappointing, really disappointing. And then to add to that, there was obviously a group of fans who apparently were in a touring, some sort of stadium tour group, who all rocked up in pretty much full kit with shin pads, Celtic kit on, and were allowed into the ground. Again, just really embarrassing, to be honest, especially when we've tried to put measures in where it is home fans only in the home end of the ground for these games. And they shouldn't have made it past security with their clobber on, regardless of how they had come about being in the stadium or coming to the game. Just common sense would suggest, no, hide your colours. But they were sitting quite brazenly in green and white hoops. And yeah, as I say, I have to say I was furious at the weekend, absolutely furious with what materialised on Sunday afternoon.
I'm not overly fussed about kind of more so the content of like the kind of the banners and that. I guess it's just more so the complete disregard for we've came to them with an agreement and stuff like that. You know, that kind of trust has been betrayed. The fans have just rocked up thinking that they can do whatever they do. Stewart and company have just bent over backwards to allow them to do, you know, kind of whatever they want as well. That's the kind of issues with it, in that, like, you need to be respected as a club and stuff like that. And that was completely not what kind of happened there. Yeah, as you say, like you walk into the ground and you see something like that, you know, as a home fan, I can only imagine how bad it is for a home player to kind of come out to that. And then, as you're saying, yeah, how anybody's getting into the home end wearing the opposite team's colours, don't care how clueless and that are, that there's not a way that that should be happening. Would that happen anywhere else? You know, it's a good thing that our support isn't as, you know, mental as some others would have. Like, could you imagine if, you know, you went into the home end of basically most of our teams in the league, to be honest with you, I'll probably say like maybe like a St Johnstone that, or maybe like different compared to some others. But there's not a chance that, you know, the fans would be as peaceful and stuff like that towards them as probably we were there. But yeah, I think just everything on Sunday, and it's just everything with the club right now, Euan, it's just going wrong. Everything is just being, it's just a disaster. And, you know, that's the kind of thing that's just kind of happened there. And it's, yeah, as you're saying, it's absolutely shoddy and an embarrassing thing to kind of look at for sure. As you say, we're not really going to have much of a chance to to kind of do anything about it, because that's the last game that we've played against them, unless there's a late top six surge, which I think is out of our hands. But yeah, as you're saying, like, it comes from this entitlement that the Old Firm kind of fans have, that they can do whatever they want and stuff like that. You always think the one you kind of always see it about right now is like the pyro and stuff like that, where they're saying like, oh, like, we should be allowed to do this and all of that. And it's like, not taking into consideration, laws and stuff like that, they're into place and stuff. Like, if there isn't things put in place to do it safely in quotation marks and stuff like that, then it doesn't just give you the right to go and do it and just say, oh, but look at them, like, look at them doing it over here and stuff like that. And yeah, there is just a complete element within. I mean, it's in this rife within the Scottish game, that they're fine to do whatever they want, and it's accepted that they can do whatever they want. I mean, we've literally just had the biggest broadcaster from Scotland, the biggest like kind of TV personality from the country, come out and say that he's willingly and happily going to be breaking an anti-hate law and stuff like that. And there's going to be nothing about it. It's met with open arms, and they're like cheering about it, and they're going to be. And you can only guarantee that there's on Sunday that there's going to be an excessive kind of thing of that, but the league doesn't want to touch them. The league doesn't want to do anything kind of about it and stuff like that. And we're talking about it on here. Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, and do you want to know, just to be very clear, like, I'm very glad the club's come out and made a statement to kind of clarify what was actually agreed at the weekend, because I think, myself included, was really embarrassed as a supporter of the football club at the weekend with that display that happened, mainly because I just assumed that the club had allowed it, whilst that's couldn't be further from the truth. So to be very clear, I'm very glad that the club's come out and made a statement, but by the same measure, it's still embarrassing that that was allowed to take place and a firmer stance wasn't given. The fact that one of the reasons, apparently, from the stewarding company was for safety concerns, that they allowed it to go ahead. But then you're allowing their fans onto the pitch for this display. Surely the safety of the players is paramount as well. And
I think the safety concern in that instance comes from, are they all going to kick off?
yeah,
Which is mental.
yeah,
And if it doesn't
exactly.
get absolute mockery.
Yeah. But I mean, another talking point, it's actually just a very brief one, Angus, is obviously the club put out something yesterday to say that Colin Young, the stadium announcer, has kind of stepped aside. But Colin's been involved with the football club in some capacity for 36 years. This goes back to Meadowbank Thistle. He was a Meadowbank Thistle fan, followed the club over to Livingston, and he's kind of one of these unsung heroes at the football club. I've met Colin on multiple occasions, and he's a passionate supporter of the football club, and I'd just like to put on record that it won't be the same at Livy without him on the tannoy. It's it's one of the things I just remember growing up, hearing Colin's voice welcoming you to Almondvale. So it'll be quite strange not to hear that anymore. But just best of luck to Colin and whatever he does next. Albeit I think there's been a bit of disagreement behind the scenes as to what's actually going on there, and obviously we are privy to what happened, gets posted on the forum and things like that. But I believe he's been given offered a director's seat and season ticket for life, essentially, which I think is very much merited for the time and commitment that he's shown the football club over that 36-year period.
Yeah, you'll probably be able to like think of this used as like a gif, and it's from the TV show Community, where Donald Glover comes in, he's got like pizzas and like the room's just like on fire. This is kind of me on Sunday because I wasn't there, and then just this game finished, I go into like Facebook, and it's just this everywhere, a bunch of different stuff, like the fan, even about the team, and then about this as well. And I'm like, what if I missed? Like, I go away for one game, guys, and you can't behave yourselves. What's happening? But aye, obviously being a part of kind of like the women's team, I think I'd heard that Colin had departed. Not much kind of info given with that, just because there is different arrangements made for our latest like home game and stuff like that for who would be doing at the stadium announcing. Then obviously one half the stories came out, the other half the stories came out, I guess I'd like to think that the truth lies somewhere in the middle of them, regardless of anything that happened. And not that we'll probably ever be kind of fully clued up and stuff like that. We'd more than happily wish Colin the best. It's just kind of a bit of a shame that it's maybe ended in a bit of a sour note. There could have maybe been plan put in place to maybe run it out till the end of the season. There's only, maybe 4 or 5 games left. If you're going to make like a change or something like that, kind of do it kind of like a later date rather than kind of abruptly during the season and stuff like that. As you said, it does seem as if there's been like an offer that's been put out there and stuff like that that's been rejected by the looks as well. So it just seems as if it's just something that's not really going to be settled anytime soon, but hopefully it's something that will do so, and Colin will be more than welcome to come back to Livingston and taking the games as a supporter. But yeah, thanks for all of the service. As you say, he's a voice that I've recognised throughout all my life as well, and you can't take away from the years of service that he's put into the club. A genuine kind of Livingston legend, out with the playing kind of stuff, and hope that he does well, in other ventures outside of this.
Yeah, as you say, the truth probably does lie somewhere in the middle, and it is a shame that it's kind of come under these circumstances that it's so and so said that, so and so said that. But the reality is that, Colin, as you say, is a kind of legend of the football club out with the playing side of things. So I'm sure every fan will wish Colin the best going forward. But as you kind of pointed out, just even how this has been handled, it appears it's just a sign of just how things are at the football club at this moment in time, and it's just very frustrating as a fan from the outside looking in. And I think there does need to, not just off the back of Colin leaving, I'm not saying a stadium announcer should trigger mass inquiry at the football club, but I do think that there needs to be some better dialogue at times between the football club and the supporters as to what's going on. And hopefully between now and the end of the season, or certainly over the summer months, we can probably get a little bit more clarity as to what's going on at the football club. But yeah, to kind of summarise on Sunday, not the best result.
There was a game.
Yeah, there was a game. We stopped speaking about that about half an hour ago. But yes, there was several things that kind of took the shine off what happened on the afternoon, which was a comfortable 3 points for Celtic, albeit there were some positives within the display from ourselves. But yeah, we'll move on to the next game against Aberdeen shortly. We're delighted to have Strana Apparel as sponsors of Talk Livi. UK based with a Swedish soul, we are Strana. Strana is an independent fashion brand from Scotland who create high quality and stylish attire for on and off the terraces. Inspired by terrace culture, lifestyle and music, all their clothing is designed using quality materials and workmanship to combine the very best style and fit. And all of this means you get a premium quality fashion at affordable prices while enjoying a simple and secure service.
As a bonus for Talk Livi listeners, you can get 10% off your order using the code TalkLivi at the checkout. We'll also have some exclusive giveaways during the season, so keep your eyes peeled on our socials for those too. And thanks to Sterner for sponsoring Talk Livi.
The Lionesses face Kilmarnock in Ayrshire this weekend, and it would end honours even in a 1-1 draw. Angus, what did you make of the game? There was also a couple of pretty landmark moments for our women's side at the weekend as well.
I think that we're maybe a little bit, well, personally, the squad that we have, I was a little bit concerned, to be honest. Kilmarnock have been a very, very good team in the league this year. They beat us, twice, beat them that last time there. So going to their place is always going to be a very difficult kind of matchup. Thrown in that, we've got so many injuries and so many people on holiday and stuff like that right now that we only ended up having a sub-goalkeeper, Ash Watson. We had Emma McFadden, who's probably the only kind of first-team player who was readily available and fit. Rachel Walkinshaw making her first appearance on the bench following an ACL injury, and then 3 youth academy players. So the amount of like injuries, the amount of like holidays and that were going on wasn't ideal for a fixture of this kind of magnitude, I would say. But I have to say a massive full credit to the team for the performance that they put in. The starting 11 that we started with as well was still a very strong one. And yeah, they really took the game to Kilmarnock, which was probably the most pleasing thing about the performance, in all honesty. The first half, we really kind of pinned them in a little bit. We're winning the ball high up the park. We're looking to keep it, looking to maintain it, create chances and stuff like that. And I think that will maybe be a little bit disappointed that we didn't do more in that first half of the pressure that we had. Kilmarnock did have a good chance though. A one-on-one went through, and Shania's made an absolutely massive save to keep us to keep it level at the time. I think it's only a couple of minutes later though that we go up the other end of the park. A long free kick. Beth Mackay does well to read it. Her shot is saved and it falls in the way to Ashley Elizabeth, who scores her 50th goal for the club, which is an absolutely tremendous achievement. She's in that kind of first season at the club just has been hitting the net like as much as she can in those two previous seasons. This season, still the top goal scorer as well. So that's her sixth goal of the season, leading our goal scoring chart. So very pleased to see Ash reach that kind of milestone, and full credit to her for the hard work that she's put in over the last 3 years as well. But yeah, we're unable to capitalise on that pressure. I think that we were very worthy of going into the break with a lead. Second half, though, I think that Kilmarnock may have made a couple of wee tweaks. They ended up bringing on Lassie on the left wing, who had quite an abundance of pace, and they started to get in behind us, cause us some issues. And it was, in all honesty, kind of a little bit of a game of two halves where we dominated that kind of first half, and the second half they started to come into it a little bit more. And we'll also probably feel that they should have maybe scored more than one goal. I believe this is the last year. Abby Robinson picks the ball up from outside the box, and it's a high effort that goes beyond Shania. That makes it 1-1. I think they ended up hitting the post through Dion Brown, who I think I think she might have been the player of the month last month, sorry. And yeah, there's just like a whole bunch of kind of other chances that they had. But I think on the course of things, Euan, a 1-1 draw is kind of fair. I think we were much better the first half. They were probably better the second half. I don't know if we maybe tired out with the fact that we didn't have too many changes that we could possibly make. But I think at the same time as well, this is one of the instances of a match where, nobody really kind of deserved to come off. I think everybody was quite solid and stuff like that. It may have just been nice to have had a couple of players that you could have rotated with just to freshen legs up. We did have two debuts though. Cody Bale, Shola Henderson came on, which is a good thing to see. And Shola only came on with kind of a couple of minutes to kind of see the game out. I think that Cody did relatively well going up top and holding the ball up and stuff like that. So hopefully that's a wee experience for them that they can take the most out of, and yeah, they can continue developing and maybe make their way into the team yet again.
Yeah, as you say, a few milestones there. First of all, it's great to see Rachel Walkinshaw back on the bench after a lengthy spell out with an ACL injury. I know Rachel personally. I used to work with her when I was at Spartans, and I know she's been very, very frustrated not being able to get on the park and play because of that injury. So it's really good to see her back involved and back training and things like that. So massive well done to Rachel for the perseverance, because ACL injuries are a long slog, especially when you're not a professional athlete who gets private medical treatment, can get it operated on within a few days of it happening. So massive congrats to her to see her back on the bench at the weekend. As you say, Ashley Elizabeth as well, she's been almost an ever present over the last kind of 3 seasons at the football club, and it's no mean feat reaching 50 goals at any level for a football club. And Ashley's been a constant source of goals over the years and managed to chip in with the goal that put us in front at Rugby Park there at the weekend as well. So hopefully she'll be on the run to the next 50 goals at the football club. Here's hoping after that one. But yeah, just looking at the league table there as well, 7 points adrift of Kilmarnock, 22 games played. Was that maybe based off that first half performance in particular, where you said very much on top, went in at the break 1-0 up, is it maybe a little opportunity missed to try and close that gap on Killie?
I think that based off that first half performance, yeah, you would say so. Maybe on another day, you may be able to to create another couple of opportunities that can make it 2-3-0 before the break and stuff like that. So I think there may be an element to that. Yeah, I guess also coming out of that second half, though, you're probably looking at it as a point gained because it very easily could have swayed back into their favour. Yeah, just honestly, just a very competitive game. One of the best ones I've probably seen in the league this kind of year. In terms of trying to catch them up, I think there may be an element of disappointment, but I think you'd maybe have went into that game taking a point away to Kilmarnock, who have been pretty consistent over the campaign so far.
Yeah, as you say, I mean, we've progressed a lot in those games against Kilmarnock. I think it was 4-1 on the opening day, which was probably a little bit of a learning curve for the ladies. Was it 4-2 in the next game at Rugby Park? So it's showing you that we're almost adjusting as the season goes on, because they're currently kind of outright in second behind Queen's Park, and they're a experienced unit at women's level, Kilmarnock as well. So it does show you that there is a degree of progress being made over the course of the season if you just take those results in isolation, that we are being more competitive in those games against the better sides in the league. But yeah, just to touch on another thing that you mentioned there, it's fantastic to see some of the younger girls coming through from the pathway. You mentioned Cody Bell and Shola Henderson, so fantastic to see those girls. I know a few of the girls were on the bench, I think the Stirling Uni game fairly recently at home, so it's good to see them getting on the park and getting minutes, be that circumstantial due to players not being available, but it's a great experience for them at a good level of women's football in Scotland as well, so hopefully there's more of that to come in the future.
Yeah, definitely. So, and being in in training and being in the dressing room with a bunch of talented kind of experienced players and stuff like that, they're going to learn an awful lot. The likes of Cody up top's going to learn a lot by playing and training against a defence of Jess Bryony and Tash, isn't she? I mean, just a lot of good characters in the women's team as well. That's going to be good for their kind of development and just kind of getting familiar with how football kind of works at this kind of level and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very pleasing to see even the likes of some of our younger players like Hannah Davies. Hannah Davies done pretty well in recent weeks. I think she started to come into our game a little bit more alongside. I just think there's been a bit of a change recently in terms of how we've been playing, and we've been keeping the ball a whole lot more. Hannah's been able to improve, I think, by linking up with the likes of Beth on the left hand side, Anna Dickoff through on the right as well, Raywin in the middle, Shannon Mulligan there as well. So yeah, I think that there's been a little kind of tweak to that kind of stuff, and I think that we're just a much more kind of enjoyable team to watch in this way, where we're continuing to play football in a way that suits us best, and it's getting the better out of the players that we have on offer, even despite the fact that we're missing X amount due to injuries and stuff like that. I mean, it's a real shame that Jen has just picked up an injury that might see her out for the rest of the season, a really bad knock to her ankle, because she was, I would say, one of the kind of catalysts in helping that become through. So, wish Jen, a very speedy recovery, and hopefully it's not too bad of an injury. We could hopefully see her back at the end of the season. But yeah, a positive afternoon on Sunday, quite the polar opposite to what was happening at Almond Vale, only across the M8 and stuff like that. I guess another thing we missed to point out, this is going off of the women's kind of action, a lot of the content was calling the stadium Almond Vale. Obviously know about the Tony Macaroni sponsorship ending. I know this is going completely back to what we're kind of talking about there. What did you make of that? Is that looking too much into it? Yeah, there's multiple posts referring to it as its former name.
Yeah, I don't know what to read of that. If I wasn't calling it the Tony Macaroni Arena just because I ended up, after years and years of finding it corny and cheesy, did eventually just start to take to the Tony Macaroni Arena, just fully embraced it. So to be honest, that's probably the most disappointing news of the season, Angus, was that sponsorship agreement ending. But yeah, for those who weren't at the sponsorship evening with the players, we were there last week, obviously sat next to Stephen Kelly, who we sponsor his away shirt. Dan Mackay was at our table as well, two really nice lads, very chatty, very honest as well about how the season's gone. But yeah, Dave Black had kind of passed a comment about a new sponsorship agreement being about 95% of the way there, and it would be our biggest stadium sponsorship agreement in our history. So I suppose there's a positive to take from that. But yeah, I'm not reading too much into the renaming of the stadium being called Almond Vale. It's what I would affectionately call it as well. But yeah, back onto the women's side very quickly. It's an international break once again with Scotland women's kicking off their Euro qualifying campaign. I think in a couple of weeks' time the girls are away to Boroughmuir, which again those games have been very closely fought. Not a lot in those games, but it's an opportunity to try and steer clear in third place, isn't it?
Yeah, Boroughmuir have been quite a weird one in all honesty. We haven't beat them in the 3 games. I think it's been 2 draws and we got beat off them at home the last time we played them. But they've had a couple of kind of strange kind of results in recent kind of months, and I think we know very much that they're a team who can hurt you and stuff like that. I think that if we go there though and we play, a nice style of football and stuff like that and try and, work our way through them and stuff, rather than kind of resorting to the balls over the top and stuff like that, that we've got a great chance of, taking something. I think that, the last kind of couple of performances have been encouraging. And, maybe, 2 weeks from now we might have a couple of more bodies and that available to help us alongside with that. So yeah, a game that I'll probably be looking forward to. They have some, nice kind of tricky players and stuff like that. So we're going to have to definitely be at it, because they can punish you. But at the same time, there's not a team that we should be massively fearing of, and we should be looking to take advantage of, the qualities within our own squad. Next up, the Lions come up against a struggling Aberdeen and West Lothian. I guess struggling's maybe a bit harsh now that they've won the last 2 games, or they're on a wee bit of an uprising following kind of 2 decent results, one against Ross County just there. I think they put Kilmarnock out of the cup just before that as well. Unless I feel like I'm missing another game in between that.
One at Motherwell, one at against Ross County at the weekend there. I mean, it's pretty cheeky me writing in those notes struggling Aberdeen given where we are currently sitting. It's
couldn't it be us, mate? Couldn't it be us?
So it's probably a bit. Hello, Pop. Please
Sorry,
meet Kettle. But in the grand scheme of things, when you're talking about Aberdeen sitting in the position that they're in, hovering above those playoff spots, albeit there's 6 points between them and Ross County now, but they're 6 points adrift reaching the top 6 with 2 games to play. So the chances are they're going to be finishing the bottom 6, which for a club the size of Aberdeen would suggest that they've struggled. But I think a lot of that's come down to inept management of the football club at the top end. And again, that's probably comical of me to say, given our current circumstances. But yeah,
I think you just say that Aberdeen are like us, but with like history and money.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah, and a bit more success in between. But yeah, I mean, looking at Aberdeen from the outside, I said it in the summer. I thought Barry Robson was the wrong appointment. I thought it was a knee-jerk appointment. I appreciate he had a decent run as interim boss, but I've always said that a club the size of Aberdeen, it's an attractive job. The Aberdeen job, it's a very attractive job, and I feel they could have got a better quality candidate. Robson's got in there. He's recruited heavily over the summer, and albeit they impressed to a degree in their European groups, they were very, very competitive in their Conference League fixtures. But league form has been pretty horrendous, to be brutally honest. And notes that I've made there, if it probably wasn't for the likes of Bojan Miovski at the top end of the park, I think Aberdeen would be right in a relegation scrap. He scored 14 league goals. I think that's 40% of Aberdeen's overall league goals this season. Jamie McGrath has been a decent acquisition for them. He's managed to get 8 goals from the middle of the park. But yeah, just kind of looking at Aberdeen in particular on the road this season, it's 4 wins, 3 draws, 9 defeats away from home, albeit that's not actually too different to their form at Pittodrie. Pittodrie's not been a fortress for them this year. I think it's only 4 league wins they've got there, albeit they've picked up a few more points here and there. But as you say, they got rid of Barry Robson. They then brought in Neil Warnock as a stopgap, with the idea being till the end of the season. And then out the blue, Neil Warnock's decided to leave because it's been made out as if there's a permanent appointment imminent. that's now dragged on for weeks and weeks on end. If anything, their best manager this season has been Peter Leaven, who's been in temporary charge twice. Did he not
And
get a point?
he'll be leaving for a new manager.
Yeah, and he got a point against Celtic, I believe, in his previous stint before Neil Warnock came in. He's then obviously steered them to a couple of wins in the Premiership, which has eased a bit of pressure on them in terms of getting dragged into that relegation playoff mix. But yeah, it's
Funny if Aberdeen just did the same mistake again and just gave him it permanently, like they did with Robson.
yeah. But the irony being is it's the interim manager that's got no interest in taking the job that has proved to be their most successful manager over the course of the season, probably. But Aberdeen have got an abundance of quality in their squad, and they shouldn't be sitting in the position that they're in, given the quality of players that they have. But certainly looking at the last couple of games since Peter Leaven's been in there, they've kind of reverted to a back four, a 4-2-3-1. Connor Barron and Graham Shinnie kind of being that holding pair in the middle of the park, kind of a good balance in that sitting pair. Connor Barron's a very good ball player, very good in possession. Shinnie's got a bit more bite about him, kind of a ball winner in there. And then Junior Hoylett signed whilst Neil Warnock was there. He's been out wide. McGrath as well, and Leighton Clarkson, probably Clarkson playing in a position that I think is more suited to him as a number 10 and behind Miovski. So there's an abundance of quality in amongst that Aberdeen side, but albeit the couple of games we've played against them this season, the game in the opening day of the season, we probably should have taken more from the game than the point that we got. The game up at Pittodrie, we should have definitely taken more than we probably got in that game as well. It was the quality at the top end with Miovski that kind of proved to be the big difference in that game. So yeah, we're probably catching them, as I say, kind of struggling. Aberdeen's more a case of the course of the entire season for them, but they have started picking up a little bit of form in recent weeks, and we have a distinct lack of form coming into this game, and we're now at the point where it's essentially a foregone conclusion. As much as the coaching staff and the club will have you kind of have the party line of saying, we'll fight until, the last game, but there comes a point you need to try and gain some sort of momentum, even looking towards next season. And a home game against an Aberdeen side that struggled for the vast majority of the season and has struggled against ourselves in the couple of games we've played, it's an opportunity we can't kind of pass up. But as I say, Aberdeen have still got a very slim hope of top six if results go their way, and obviously they get the appropriate results. So I'm sure they'll continue to try and fight towards getting as close to the top six as possible.
I think they would even agree that if they got into the top six, it would be an absolute robbery. Can't really see the teams above them kind of all dropping enough points to allow that to happen. But yeah, I guess they'll be taking a page at it's a huge weekend and we'll keep fighting if you'll believe that. In all honesty, I'm just ready for this season to be done. I'm not really fussed anymore. I just kind of know what's kind of going to happen. I feel like this could be one of those games as well where we actually do give a good account of ourselves, and then boom, they score like 2 goals or something, and then that's it, gone straight away. So that gives away my prediction of a 2-1 to Aberdeen. Are you want to go into that, or is there anything you want to speak about, regarding our team or that? Because in all honesty, Euan, I don't care.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see how we set up in recent games. Jamie Brandon's played centre mid as one of those kind of holding players, and I've actually been quite impressed with Jamie there. I've kind of commented on it earlier in the season that he's very comfortable in the ball. He's probably one of our most comfortable players in possession of the ball, in fairness to him, and he's kind of reminiscent of Jack McMillan a little bit. He can almost fit in just about anywhere across the park and do a job for you. So it'll be interesting to see if he kind of remains there. Don't know how much that's down to the fact that Andrew Shinnie wasn't available, and from what Davy Martindale was saying after the Celtic game, the likes of Penrice, Shinnie, probably too soon for them. Joe Nubley should probably be back for this game, which means Joe will likely start given the course of this season, despite a kind of lack of form on Joe's front. But we would likely maybe see him come in, I would assume possibly for Stephen Bradley. But yeah, I can imagine Yengi leading the line. I'd like to see Stephen Kelly kind of remain in the side. I think he offers us a little bit of something, a little bit of creativity in that kind of number 10 position. Scott Pittman was back available at the weekend, which was good to see. I do think Pitts has probably been unlucky with injuries this second half of the season, because I do think he's started to look more like himself in kind of spells since the winter break as well. So I would imagine Pitts would quite likely feature in the game as well. But yeah, a lot of our team selection really comes down to the fact of who's available, because the likes of Sean Kelly starting at left back at the weekend, that's down to your other two essentially first choices to play at left back being unavailable in Penrice and Montano, and then right back's probably been forced upon because of a lack of options in the middle of the park, and Jamie Brandon needing to move in there to kind of accommodate. So yeah, a lot of it's going to come down to who's actually fit and available to start the game. I think Dan Mackay was another one he'd mentioned was probably only 70-75% fit for the game at the weekend due to a dead leg. So the likes of Dan Mackay might, after a kind of another week of training, might be more readily available to start that game as well.
I think he played reserves yesterday as well.
Oh, there you go. So hopefully that should see Dan's a player I really like. So I would like to see him in the starting 11 if he is fully fit and available to play the game. But yeah, your prediction was 2-1 Aberdeen. I don't know whether to just go for the easy option and go for the points on our little table, which by the way I'm 5 points clear on the prediction front this year. I've gained a lot more points since just predicting defeats the second half of this season, or whether I'll be blindly positive. Yeah, nah, I'm gonna go with the safe option. I'm gonna go 2-0 to Aberdeen.
We're full of optimism, more optimism than we were there last week, I guess.
Have we sold you on turning up?
But I guess just for the rest of the season, that, to be honest with you just need to see something that you can actually enjoy kind of being at the club at this moment. I think that this podcast is kind of maybe one that's summed up, the kind of massive, overwhelming kind of negative feeling, and that's superseding the playing side of things and all of that. I think just from now to the end of the season, we just want something, a little bit of, give us a little bit of hope, a little bit of optimism, a little bit of pride back into the club, and get rid of some of this kind of toxic feeling that's kind of going on so far. But yeah, hopefully we can get a good kind of turnout, especially those Aberdeen fans making the long 8-hour journey down to here. But
had to get that in for Glenn, didn't we? Over at red tinted glasses.
Yeah, hopefully it's a game that we can give a good account of ourselves, and hopefully one that we'll see a lot more people at as well. Good to continue supporting the team even through this kind of difficult time, and hopefully we can get a performance to match that as well.
Just go with that. I've got nothing else positive to add. That's it for this week's weekly hour of depression of Talk Livi. We really appreciate you tuning in every week. Trust me, we're even struggling to tune in at this moment in time watching the club, but we do try our best to provide you some content, and we'd love to hear your feedback regardless. You can leave us a review on iTunes or drop us a message on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.
As Euan said, we're on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Simply search Talk Livi to find us. You'll find all the links to our weekly episodes on there, and any shares and likes are always appreciated. All our episodes are available on all the usual podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube, so we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we've done over the last few years.
That's it for this week, and thanks to all our listeners for tuning in as always. And I'm not going to try and promise you a great week following the Lothian's finest football team. I'm not naive enough.
West Lothian is love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Armonville Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the